There's a material sitting inside every handful of beach sand that insulates better than anything you can buy at a hardware store. Not somewhat better, not marginally better. The thermal conductivity of this material is so low it makes standard fiberglass insulation look like tissue paper. And the primary raw ingredient is silicon dioxide, the exact same molecule that makes up ordinary sand. The process to unlock it uses vinegar as a trigger, not an industrial solvent, not a patented chemical system. White vinegar from a grocery store, combined with a substance you can buy for $5 at any hardware store or make at home from sand and lye. The resulting material traps so much air inside its molecular skeleton that it is 99% empty space. It insulates so aggressively that scientists at NASA have used it to protect the Mars rovers from temperature swings that drop to negative 140 degrees Fahrenheit at night. The military figured this out during World War II. The construction industry figured it out not long after. And then it quietly disappeared from every conversation about home insulation, every hardware store shelf, and every contractor recommendation sheet. Not because it failed, not because a better solution replaced it, but because the material is made from sand, and you cannot charge someone $1,000 for something the earth puts under their feet for free. This is the story of Aerogel, the most powerful insulating solid ever created. And the reason you are heating and cooling your home with technology from 1938 while this 90-year-old breakthrough collects dust in academic journals. Let's go back to where this starts. The year is 1931. A chemist named Samuel Kistler is working at the College of the Pacific in Stockton, California. Kistler has made a bet with a colleague named Charles Learned over something that sounds deceptively simple. Who can take a jar of gel, a substance whose structure is held in place by the liquid inside it, and replace that liquid with air without the solid collapsing? Everyone who had tried this before watched the same thing happen. Remove the liquid, the solid shrinks. Remove it faster, the solid cracks. Remove it wrong, and you're left with a shriveled, dense, useless lump. The reason is surface tension. The boundary between liquid and vapor inside the gel's microscopic pores creates a pulling force so strong it drags the entire solid structure inward like a collapsing lung. Kistler figured out that the secret was to never let that liquid-vapor boundary form in the first place. He pressurized the alcohol inside his gel until it passed the critical point, the temperature and pressure at which the distinction between liquid and vapor simply ceases to exist. No boundary, no surface tension, no collapse. He released the pressure slowly and watched the alcohol exit the gel as pure gas, leaving behind a three-dimensional silica skeleton almost identical in shape and size to the original wet structure. What remained in the container was something that had never existed before, a solid that was 99% air, something you could hold in your hand that weighed almost nothing, something that looked like a piece of cloudy sky frozen into a shape you could tap with your finger. Kistler published his findings in the journal Nature in 1931 under the title Coherent Expanded Aerogels and Jellies. He called the material an aerogel, from aero, meaning air, and gel, meaning the structural network it came from. And here's the part nobody talks about. What Kistler used to make his aerogel was silica gel, silicon dioxide, the same compound that makes up quartz sand, the same molecule sitting on beaches and riverbeds and in the dirt under your backyard. He was, in the truest chemical sense, turning sand into frozen air. By the time Kistler licensed his process to Monsanto in the early 1940s under the trademark Santacell, the thermal properties of aerogel were already documented and extraordinary. It was being used in industrial applications, mixed into paints, and studied as an insulating compound. Then 1938 arrived. Owen Corning introduced fiberglass insulation to the American market. The construction industry found something they could manufacture at scale, sell by the roll, and convince homeowners was the gold standard of thermal protection. Fiberglass is made by melting glass and pulling it into fine threads, a process that requires industrial furnaces, proprietary machinery, and continuous material replacement every time a homeowner wants to add or upgrade their home's insulation. Aerogel, made from sand and chemistry you can reproduce in a glass jar, was never going to fit that business model. Here's the number that matters most. Fiberglass insulation delivers an R value, a measure of thermal resistance, of roughly 3.5 to 4 per inch of thickness. Aerogel delivers an R value of 10 to 12 per inch. That is not a marginal improvement. That is the same thermal protection in 1.25 inches of aerogel that a full 3.5-inch wall cavity of fiberglass gives you. Same result, a fraction of the material. 0 itchy pink fibers falling from your attic every time you reach for a box. The thermal conductivity of commercial aerogel blankets has been measured at as low as 0.013 watts per meter per Kelvin. Fiberglass sits between 0.035 and 0.040 watts per meter per Kelvin. That means heat moves through fiberglass roughly 3 times faster than it moves through aerogel. In practical terms, your heating system works 3 times as hard to maintain the same indoor temperature in a fiberglass insulated home as it would in one insulated with this material. The Department of Energy acknowledged publicly that the only significant barrier to aerogel replacing conventional insulation in American homes is cost, not performance, not availability of raw materials, not installation complexity, cost. And why does it cost so much? Because the companies that manufacture it use supercritical drying equipment, the same pressurized vessel method Kistler developed in 1931, which requires industrial-grade infrastructure, high-pressure vessels capable of operating above 300 degrees Celsius, and processing cycles that run 12 to 24 hours per batch. Commercial aerogel costs anywhere from $3 to $15 per cubic foot to manufacture. Fiberglass costs under $1 per cubic foot. That cost gap is not a law of physics. It is a manufacturing choice. It is the expensive way of doing what Kistler spent years figuring out, and what more recent chemistry has found a far simpler route to accomplish. Because here is what the industry does not want you to understand about the aerogel process. The supercritical drying method is not the only way to make this material. Researchers at universities from Wisconsin to Stuttgart to Chennai have published peer-reviewed papers over the past 3 decades, demonstrating a technique called ambient pressure drying, where aerogel-grade silica structures can be formed without any pressurized equipment at all. The key is in the surface chemistry of the gel before it dries. Modify the molecular surface so the pore walls repel each other during drying instead of collapsing toward each other. And you do not need supercritical conditions. You need patience, the right sequence of liquids, and a starting material that costs almost nothing. That starting material is sodium silicate, also called water glass, a clear, syrupy liquid that hardware stores stock for under $5 a bottle, used industrially for everything from fireproofing to sealing concrete. What almost no label on the hardware store shelf tells you is that sodium silicate is manufactured commercially by dissolving quartz sand in hot pressurized sodium hydroxide solution. The chemical equation is 2 molecules of sodium hydroxide plus 1 molecule of silicon dioxide, which is sand, yields sodium silicate plus water. Sodium silicate is, at its core, liquid sand. And what triggers sodium silicate to form a solid silica gel? Acid. Specifically, when you lower the pH of a sodium silicate solution, the silica molecules stop repelling each other and start forming bonds. They link up into chains. The chains branch. The branches interconnect. Within minutes to hours, depending on concentration, you have a 3-dimensional silicon dioxide network, the exact same skeleton that forms the structure of aerogel, suspended in liquid, a silica hydrogel, the precursor to the material NASA puts on Mars rovers. The acid that researchers have used in published studies to trigger this gelation process is acetic acid, which is the active ingredient in white vinegar. A 2018 paper published and indexed in scientific literature on sodium silicate-based aerogels via ambient pressure drying specifically documented hydrogels obtained by neutralizing sodium silicate solution with acetic acid as the gelation trigger. The same chemistry, the same vinegar sitting in a bottle in your kitchen right now. This is not a fringe experiment. This is not one researcher's lucky accident. The formation of silica hydrogel from sodium silicate and acetic acid has been replicated and documented across multiple institutions. It is the same condensation chemistry that underlies all sol-gel science. It works because acetic acid lowers the pH just enough to kick off silica polymerization without pushing the system into a regime where all the silica precipitates out as powder before it can form a connected network. You want a gel, not a snow globe. Vinegar, introduced slowly and at the right dilution, gives you the gel. Now let's follow the money, because this is where the story gets dark in ways that have nothing to do with chemistry. The global building insulation market generates over $230 billion in annual revenue. The largest players, Owens Corning, Johns Manville, Saint-Gobain, Rockwool, control enormous market share in a product category that has not fundamentally changed in thermal performance since the introduction of fiberglass in 1938. These companies have built distribution networks, contractor relationships, building code influence, and marketing infrastructure all around one premise: that keeping a house warm requires bulk quantities of their specific product, purchased repeatedly as it settles, compresses, and degrades over the years. Fiberglass loses roughly 20% of its effective R value within the first few years of installation as the bats compress under gravity. It absorbs moisture. It degrades when wet. Owens Corning's own product data acknowledges that fiberglass insulation in a compressed state performs below its rated R value. The entire industry is built on a product that requires you to use more of it, replace it faster, and accept performance that fades. Aerogel does not compress. It does not absorb moisture. Properly made, aerogel is hydrophobic, meaning water beads off its surface. A study published in the Journal of Materials Science documented aerogel samples that remained hydrophobic after 4 months of continuous exposure to a 90% humidity atmosphere. The material maintained its insulating properties without degradation. There is no equivalent data for fiberglass under the same conditions. A 2024 study, published in Sustainable Materials and Technologies, demonstrated aerogel produced from recycled silica sources via ambient pressure drying with a thermal conductivity of 26 milliwatts per meter per Kelvin and a surface area of 608 square meters per gram. The researchers compared it directly to commercial aerogel and found the properties were comparable. The starting material was waste glass, which is also silicon dioxide, the same molecule as sand. The insulation industry sells you something for $130 billion globally that you could produce from the ground beneath your feet, with chemistry so old it was documented before the Second World War began. What cannot be patented cannot generate licensing fees. What cannot generate licensing fees cannot build a distribution empire. And what cannot build a distribution empire cannot lobby building code committees to specify its product and residential construction by name. So the aerogel process got buried under a cost structure engineered by the same industrial chemistry complex that sat in front of Congress and told them synthetic materials were the future of American manufacturing. Here is exactly how you make it. Follow this precisely. Step 1. Get your sodium silicate solution. You can purchase it at any hardware store, typically labeled as water glass or sodium silicate, for around $5 for a pint. If you want to make it from scratch, take silica gel, the kind sold as a desiccant at hardware stores or simply cat litter made of silica, and combine 6 grams of it with 8 grams of sodium hydroxide, lye pellets dissolved in 100 milliliters of distilled water. Heat gently while stirring until the silica dissolves. Filter through a coffee filter. What you have is liquid sodium silicate, liquid sand. Step 2. Dilute your sodium silicate. Take 1 part sodium silicate solution and mix it with 4 parts distilled water in a clean glass jar. Stir until uniform. The solution should be faintly cloudy and slightly viscous. This lower concentration prevents the gel from forming too quickly and gives you a more uniform pore structure, which is what determines insulating performance. Step 3. Prepare your vinegar solution. Take standard white distilled vinegar, 5% acidity, the kind that costs $2 at a grocery store, and dilute it with an equal volume of distilled water. You want a mild acid that will lower the pH gradually, not slam it down all at once. Step 4. Trigger the gel. Add your diluted vinegar solution to your sodium silicate solution, one small amount at a time, stirring gently between additions. You're watching for the solution to shift from clear and flowing to slightly cloudy and beginning to thicken. The moment you notice resistance when you stir, the silica network is forming. Stop adding vinegar. Set the jar somewhere undisturbed and let it sit for 12 to 24 hours at room temperature. At the end of that period, the jar should contain a translucent solid, a silica hydrogel. You have just converted dissolved sand into a 3-dimensional silicon dioxide skeleton. Step 5. Wash out the sodium ions. This step matters. The sodium left over from the sodium silicate solution is trapped inside the gel and will cause it to crack during drying if not removed. Pour distilled water over the gel and let it soak for 4 hours. Drain and repeat 3 times over the course of a day. Each wash cycle removes more sodium, strengthening the gel's final structure. Step 6. Solvent exchange. This is the step that separates a silica gel, which would shrink and crack during normal drying, from a silica aerogel. You need to replace the water inside the pores with something that evaporates with less surface tension. Isopropyl alcohol, sold in every pharmacy as rubbing alcohol at 91% concentration, works for this. Submerge your water-washed gel in isopropyl alcohol. Let it soak for 8 hours, drain, and repeat twice more. You are trading water for alcohol inside every pore. When you dry an alcohol-filled pore rather than a water-filled pore, the surface tension forces are roughly 60% lower, which means the silica skeleton can survive without collapsing. Step 7. Surface treatment. Mix 1 tablespoon of trimethyl chlorosilane, sold as a small reagent on chemistry supply websites for a few dollars, sometimes listed as TMCS, with 1 cup of hexane, which is available at hardware stores as lighter fluid or VMNP naphtha. Soak your alcohol exchange gel in this mixture for 12 hours. This step grafts methyl groups onto the silica surface, making the gel hydrophobic and preventing the pore walls from clenching together during the final drying. This is the single step that makes ambient pressure drying possible. Without it, the gel collapses. With it, the pore walls repel each other even as the solvent leaves. Step 8. Dry it. Remove the gel from the surface treatment mixture, place it on a wire rack in a well-ventilated space, and allow it to dry at room temperature for 24 hours. Then move it to an oven set to 50 degrees Celsius for 6 hours. Then raise the temperature to 150 degrees Celsius for 12 hours, then to 200 degrees Celsius for 6 hours. This graduated temperature ramp drives out the remaining solvent slowly enough that the structure never faces a sudden large capillary force. What you retrieve from that oven is a silica aerogel, lightweight, slightly translucent, hydrophobic, and warm to hold despite conducting almost no heat. The total material cost for a batch large enough to insulate a section of wall cavity sits under $8. The sodium silicate, $5. The vinegar, less than $1. The isopropyl alcohol, $2 for a bottle that will last multiple batches. The surface treatment chemicals are the only items that require ordering online, and both are inexpensive in small quantities. Compare that to commercial aerogel insulation blankets that retail between $6 and $40 per square foot installed. A standard 10 by 10 room has over 300 square feet of wall and ceiling surface. At commercial aerogel pricing, insulating that one room properly could cost anywhere from $2,000 to $12,000. With this process, the material cost is a fraction of a single contractor's hourly rate. Here is what the finished material feels like. Pick up a piece of it. It weighs almost nothing. It feels solid, but impossibly light, the way styrofoam feels, but with none of the plasticky give. Press a hot mug against one face of it and hold your finger against the opposite face. Your finger does not get warm. You are holding a solid object against a source of heat and feeling almost nothing transfer through it. That is the 99% air doing its work. Heat has almost no solid material to conduct through. The pores are small enough, typically between 2 and 50 nanometers across, that even air molecules cannot circulate freely inside them, which eliminates convective heat transfer as well. The material stops heat through 3 separate physical mechanisms simultaneously. No product on a hardware store shelf comes close to that performance profile. For anyone building a homestead structure, an off-grid shelter, or simply trying to reduce their energy bill without spending the price of a used car on blown-in spray foam, this material is not theoretical. It is a direct, chemistry-confirmed alternative to the products that an industry generating over $200 billion per year needs you to keep buying. Samuel Kistler published the Aerogel process in 1931. The U.S. military used it in the 1940s. The Department of Energy has acknowledged that cost is the only barrier between this material and your walls. The chemistry to eliminate that cost barrier has existed in peer-reviewed literature for decades. What prevented it from reaching you was not complexity. What prevented it was that there is no corporation in this country whose business model survives homeowners learning that sand and vinegar can outperform their flagship product. Now you know. If this opens something for you, subscribe. Share this with someone sitting inside a house wrapped in a technology from 1938. The information that closes the gap between what you have been sold and what actually exists does not tend to stay on the front page of search results for long. Stay ahead of it.